Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Monday, October 9th, 2023. And our top story today, it's another episode of Ray's Garage. Today we're talking about what you need to know when you head out to get an oil change. And joining me now is the purveyor of Ray's Garage, Ray McGrath. He's a car enthusiast. Ray, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us in the program this morning.
Oh, glad to be here with you, Jeff.
Yeah, you were going to call me something else. What were you going to call me, Ray?
I was going to say it's a beautiful day, but, I didn't want to say what day of the week it is because today is Monday, but it might not air till Thursday or Friday.
That's right. That's right. And just to be very clear, you're not working for Snap-on Tools because you're wearing a Snap-on Tools shirt. Just because we have nothing for or against Snap-on Tools, but Ray's just wearing black because he likes it. All right, Ray, you are, we're not going to talk about investments or finance, but it might bleed in a little bit to our conversation. Let's talk about maintenance on a car. You're a car enthusiast. You've built cars. You've bought used cars. You've bought new cars. Let's talk about that oil change. What are some of the things we need to know about when we go out and get an oil change? Because there's a lot of, moving parts there, pun intended, between synthetic and regular oil. But what are some key things you need to think about when you think about that oil change?
Yeah, and it's more than just synthetic or regular oil, Jeff. I mean, so many cars today require specific oils. In the old days, you needed an oil that had a lot of zinc. It sounds like something you get from the doctor, but you need zinc in your oil for older cars. But newer cars, all new cars are fuel injected, but some cars are direct injected. So you might open the hood and it says GDI, like say on a Hyundai. For those engines, you need a special oil that doesn't evaporate and clog up your PCV valve system. So really what you need to do is find out what kind of oil your owner's manual calls for, and then make sure whoever's installing it, they use the proper oil, because it's really easy to just buy, any synthetic or synthetic blend, but really you want the oil that your manufacturer or the engine was designed for. And you need to change it, more frequently than theoretically more. You don't want to wait the full 10,000 miles if that's what the limit is, so.
Yeah, and so you look, where do you find this information? You find it in the owner's manual. Of course, you can probably find it online now. So if people have a phone, tablet, or they're at their desk, they can look it online. Does it also say what kind of engine, what kind of oil in the engine compartment and under the hood?
Well, sometimes if you open your hood and on the cap where you add the oil, it'll say Mobil 1, 0W30, 5W20. It might say it on there. So you really need to know the appropriate weight. And you probably, a lot of cars now don't come with dipsticks. So you need to know, how do you measure your oil? Is it something you do through the dashboard, or does it have a dipstick? So it's always good to be on top of it. Obviously, if you have a dipstick, you can pull it out, check the oil level, touch it to a white napkin, see how dirty it is, or maybe it's not dirty. Those are all good things to tell you the health and the cleanliness of your engine.
Ray, you talked about there are a lot of different providers out there. First, let's start with the dealer. Does the dealer is going to know, a dealer, and you don't always have to go back to where you bought the car, but you can go to the dealer. They're probably going to know the most about your vehicle, right? But with that expertise comes probably a little bit higher cost. What about some of the third-party providers, none of whom are sponsors of this program, but like the Jiffy Lubes and company organizations like that? Are there things to be aware of in terms of cost, but also knowledge base? Do they have the knowledge on some of these more sophisticated vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the dealer has the correct and the factory recommended parts to repair or service your vehicle. So, that's probably the safest bet. Comes at a higher cost theoretically. But, it's also, for some folks, it's inconvenient to try and make an appointment and, be without your car, or if you have to drop it off and wait a day. So Jiffy Lube, in theory, and places like that, maybe they probably, so full disclosure, I don't use Jiffy Lube, but I would assume they have whatever your car needs,
Right. And they would have certified representatives. So they go to a trade school, they learn and I don't want to be hating on anybody. I'm just saying that you have a dealer that has the expertise because they only work on this particular vehicle. And then you have someone like a third party that works on all vehicles. So they're going to have maybe a broader level of expertise, but will they know your specific vehicle? So I don't want to be hating on anybody.
No, I know. Well, even if you go into, say, a Walmart, you go down the automotive oil aisle, there's probably, 80 different types of oil in that aisle. So I don't know if Jiffy Lube, not to pick on them, but if they have all 80 different types, probably they have a general or something that'll suffice, but
yeah,
it's more important to change it than not to change it or let it go past the recommended interval. So, or run it low.
Now, Ray, I want to ask you, last question before we go to a commercial break. Are most cars now, even some of the older cars, 5, 10, 15 years old, have a little diode, or they might have a computer that tells you when to get the oil change or when to get your car serviced? Do you always have to get your car serviced exactly when that diode goes off? Or do you have a period of time? And by the way, you don't want to void the warranty. You need to be aware of whether you're buying, leasing, who owns the vehicle. But do you have some flexibility there? Like, for example, does it need to be 10,000 miles on the mark, or can you get away with, if you can't get in there, with 11,000 or 10,500?
Yeah, I'm not the best person to ask that question, Jeff. I rarely go over 5,000. So, and I know it's not good for the environment, but I look at it as cheap insurance. But I will say, I used to drive a car that I would change the oil every 10,000 miles because I did 90% of my driving on the highway. So it gets up to temperature, burns off any type of impurities. When you're driving around town, and if it's 10,000 miles around town, that's a hard 10,000 miles. So the oil really never gets up to temperature. It has a lot of condensation in it. You can even open your oil cap and look underneath it, and you might see like a white milky substance, which is really like condensation or water vapors burning off. So those are all, I like to, because I do it myself, I like to do it a little bit earlier than waiting, because it's cheap insurance. The engine is $5,000, $10,000, and oil changes, $50. So.
Yeah, plus your labor is free, and then you just have to take it somewhere. Where do you take, if you choose to do it yourself, where do you take the oil? Clearly, you're not going to put it down the toilet or down the sewer, so you have to take it somewhere to be dispensed with. Where do you go with that?
So my town has a recycling center, so I bring, not only my plastic, but I'll also they'll take motor oil and antifreeze and chemicals, things like that. So,
and I would imagine most towns in and around the United States has something similar. Ray, I want to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about getting your car exterior fixed, get in an accident. Well, Ray's got some tips. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network. Well, Ray, thanks so much for staying with us. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2 this morning.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Oh, yeah, it's always great to talk to you. I feel like we're going to name the segment Ray's Garage. That's what we're going to call this episode. We're going to do one a month and get the latest tips because you have a plethora of experience, if you will. Let's talk about car accidents, Ray. Happen all the time. Little bumper to bumper hits. Unfortunately, some major hits that could result in injury. How do you get them fixed? What do you need to think about before you do actually get an estimate and get the vehicle fixed?
Yeah, hopefully you have insurance that covers the cost of repair and everything's that simple. But a lot of times it's smaller items that maybe you just neglect or you just put it off. But I found that I'll give you a perfect example. My friend just broke his side view mirror. He took it to the dealer and they said, "Oh, look, we can fix it for $1,600." And he told me just a mirror, yeah, on his Audi. So anyway, I said, "Look," I said, "I can find one on eBay, same exact color. He had this special shade of gray, and it was $300, and he paid someone $100 to put it on. So he kind of got away at a good price, So, but I think, to get the repairs done, you pretty much want to go to a reputable shop. I know it sounds easy, but there are a lot of shops that maybe, the insurance might pay them $20,000 to fix your car, but if they can fix it for $15,000, they'll make $5,000 of profit. Maybe people won't notice the difference. So it is a bit of a trade-off in terms of how badly damaged it is, whether or not once they start taking off, if it's a bumper, maybe there's damage behind the bumper or the headlight. Because even with new cars, when your car gets damaged, the dealer doesn't have to put on brand new parts. They can put on used parts from another car that was maybe wrecked in the back, and they can take parts from that and put it on the front of your car. So there is a lot of different options, but it can get quite expensive. And I hate to bring in the pandemic and the supply chain, but all these prices have just gone up since the pandemic.
Well, and Ray, car insurance prices have gone up since the pandemic. I think people are driving more. There's more. I don't know here about in New Jersey. Here in Charlotte, unfortunately, people don't use their blinkers. I don't know, the turn signals. I think it must not have come with cars in the area. But in all seriousness, you got to get an estimate. So let's start there. You get an estimate. You go to a reputable body shop, and you're right. You want to make sure, probably, Ray, that the estimate includes if they find further damage, because you can only see the superficial. They give you an estimate for that. They need this part, that part, this color. They got to dispose of the old parts, all that kind of stuff. But you got to probably build into the estimate the fact that there could be more damage.
Yeah, and you need to make sure, like I've seen it where you get into an accident, it gets repaired, everything looks good. And, maybe you got into the accident around Christmas time in the snow. And then come June, July, you turn on the air conditioning and find out it doesn't work. And it was because it got cracked and the refrigerant leaked out. So some of those things, I think when you get the car back, you need to test everything. You need to check everything. It really can, then it's a matter of, who was it a pre-existing condition, or was it as a result of the accident? It can get very complicated.
And Ray, there are obviously, going back to our first conversation in segment 1 about specific dealers, there are specific car-centric organizations that fix Audis, Porsches, Hyundais, right? They have expertise around that. But there are third parties that you were talking about, and that's where you have to make sure it's reputable. One of the things that I think is really important is matching that paint, Ray. You got to be able to match that original, or else it's just going to look like you just bolted on, like it's going to look like one of the Transformers or something.
No, that's true. I mean, and for the most part, dealerships don't do their own body work. They contract with a local auto body repair shop. Only because it is a skill to paint. And a lot of times, if they paint a fender, you're right, the color gray could be a little different than the gray on the door. So sometimes whoever's refinishing it has to kind of paint not only the fender, but halfway into the door to kind of make it look like it's blended in the paint. So that comes at a higher cost. Sorry, Jeff.
No, I interrupted you. Ray, on the flip side, let's talk about you. We've talked to you before about buying a used car, buying a car off the lot. You remember the old trick about taking a magnet and you would see if there was body work? Does that still apply? Are they still using Bondo? Do you need to think about, you're going to look at the Carfax, and some of that was alleviated through the Carfax, but only if you take it to a reputable place are they going to log in the accident and all that kind of good stuff. So do you still need to look at a new car or a new used car with it, bring a magnet in your pocket to determine whether or not the car has had work?
Yeah, I know that sounds good. I mean, I think if you go on a nice day when in good lighting, when it's not raining, and you wear if you need eyeglasses, you can almost look down the side of the car, look at the paint real close. Sometimes you can see sand marks if it had been painted. Sometimes you open the door and look at the weather stripping to see if there's any paint on that. That'll tell you if it's been repaired. But a lot of times, I mean, you can't really run a magnet. You could run a magnet over the whole car. I don't know if you'll find anything. Half the cars now, the hood is made of aluminum, the bumpers are made of plastic, so a magnet wouldn't stick anyway. But yeah, it's hard to say, Jeff. I mean, I think a lot of times just looking. I know I have a friend who straightens cars that have been crushed, and he'll put a chain underneath at his shop, and they stretch the car back. So the first thing he looks at is he crawls under the car to see if they've ever had a chain under the frame to stretch it back. I mean, that's extreme, but there's a lot you can see from underneath.
Because you got the bent frame, and that's the one thing you don't ever want to have on a vehicle. It just makes it difficult to align. It just never works. You got to make sure that the car is completely, I guess, square is the right word. Ray, we're going to have to leave it there. Always great tips, and we're going to have to check back with Ray again for Ray's Garage and see what other shirts he's going to wear. Ray, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again next month, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, and visit our website. We're back again tomorrow with another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.